If you've watched my channel for a while, you'll know that I did a video on the woke right kind of idea a few months ago. And since then, when I originally made the video, I kind of thought that it was an idea that's going to kind of fizzle out eventually and just kind of wither away. And the pushers of it would kind of find something else to kind of rag on and kind of anchor onto and really push into the mainstream to kind of keep their ideas alive. But it appears that I was somewhat wrong in that the those who are pushing the idea of this woke rights began to make me realize that this community, this, as Jack Posobiec calls the woke light, what I would call the woke right, those like the James Lindsays of the world, the maybe perhaps Douglas Murrays of the world.
You've never beat. You've never beat.
Never beat.
Never beat.
Never beat. Never beat.
The more neoconservatives, or not even neoconservatives, but the disaffected liberals, those who were liberal maybe 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, and are now like broadly conservatives and may have perhaps voted for Trump. They're very anti-Marxists. They're very anti-communist. You know, they're those types, which is, you know, on the face of it, those labels are people that the right wing largely would kind of get along with.
So Lucifer is the morning star, and he's the angel of the untrammeled intellect. That's how he's portrayed in Milton, right? And he's allied in some strange way with the serpent in the Garden of Eden.
If I might just interject, if he's the morning star, what do you do in the morning after the morning star rises? You wake up.
Right.
Woke.
Right.
But the continued push for this idea of this woke right is, in my eyes, very telling of it's the outgrowth of a certain political strategy that I think is starting to kind of blow back in the right's face. If you watched my my videos around the RNC.
This is a symptom of a deeper cancer in American life, identity politics. This new religion that says your race, your gender, and your sexuality are your identity. It is anti-American. It is meritocratic, it's anti-meritocratic, and it is dividing this country to a breaking point. And I've spoken about this to the left. My books are all about this. I've preached this to the left, but it's even worse when Republicans try to play the same game. We're talking about that trans issue. And Nikki Haley's campaign launch video sounded like a woke Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light ad talking about how she would kick in heels. At the first debate, she said that only a woman can get this job done. That's what she said. After the third debate, when I criticized Ronna McDaniel after 5 failed years of leadership of this party and criticized Nikki for her corrupt foreign dealings as a military contractor, she said that I have a woman problem. Nikki, I don't have a woman problem. You have a corruption problem. And I think that that's what people need to know. Nikki is corrupt. This is a woman who will send your kids to die so she can buy a bigger house. This is the problem. Using identity politics more effectively than Kamala Harris is a form of intellectual fraud. And it actually needs to end. There's our donor puppet masters wielding their puppet right up here tonight. This is how this game is played. The puppet masters put up their puppet, and I reject the use of identity politics in this party. It has been a cancer coming from the left, and I'm sick and tired of the double standards. The people of this country are too. Having 2 X chromosomes does not immunize you from criticism.
Thank you.
I talked a little bit about the Big Tent. Trump in 2024 tried to, and did it very well, appeal to as many people as he could realistically, while trying to keep the majority of his policies kind of from being like too moderate. So he appealed to many different people, including disaffected liberals. So he got Christian conservatives, he got disaffected liberals. Basically, his campaign was woke versus non-woke or anti-woke, anybody who kind of positioned themselves as not woke became the people that the Trump campaign kind of targeted as a target market, target audience. And that was all well and good. And it paid off handsomely because Trump won a plurality of the popular vote. He swept all the swing states. He crushed all the expectations if you weren't a Trump supporter and you didn't see that coming. But one of the issues with the big tent is exactly that. Is the idea that you can kind of bring aboard a bunch of people who are loosely connected by like 50% or less on policy, maybe even closer to 30%. But that the other, 70% that they don't agree with, they're just kind of pushing that to the side temporarily to focus on the 30% that is really pressing. And that was the threat of Marxism from the Biden administration continuing with the Kamala Harris administration. But the Big Tent worked insofar as it got Trump elected. If you want to know how I feel Trump has been doing, you can check out my report card video where I kind of go into a little bit more detail. But this video isn't about that. What this video is about trade-offs, because I feel as if what we are seeing with this push on this woke right nonsense from the, as Jack Posobiec, again, like I mentioned earlier, called the woke light.
I will be the first to admit it's true. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. There should be better people. There should be better people. It's just that you guys suck so much that I can fuck all of you up. This is why I wreck these guys every time they're willing to debate, to the point that I don't think too many of them are going to be willing to debate anymore. There's someone was trying to set, it was Josie, the redheaded libertarian on Twitter. She was trying to set up a debate on the woke right and between me and James Lindsay. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do it. And he was like, no, they're not doing that. And of course not. Why would they? None of you guys have lost the fucking argument because your argument is built off lies and blood. That's it. No one's going to stop using neocon as a pejorative because Mark Levin threatened them. Keep ranting. Keep your dumb rants coming. Please, just more content. Please keep them coming. Sorry, you guys, listen, say what you will about me. There's far more educated people than me. I've read like everything the neocons have ever fucking written.
This community is an outgrowth of the Big Tent approach. What do I mean by that? And how do I know that to be true? When you try and circle and herd a bunch of people into a specific political community, call them Trump supporters, right? And you say that, vote for me because I'm not them, which is what kind of a lot of what Trump's messaging was. He wasn't woke, he wasn't Joe Biden, and he wasn't Kamala Harris, and he, God forbid, he was not like a Barack Obama-esque type. So all these disaffected liberals who were very turned off about the Marxism,
the Marxists,
about the wokeism that kind of plagued Democratic Party, and they were correct in calling it out. James Lindsay has done extensive work on this.
My favorite ones is this feminist who said, all white straight men are trash unless proven otherwise.
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
All of us.
All of us.
All of us.
All of
There's
us.
150 million of us. I mean, give or take, you know how many gay folks there are?
Yeah, trash.
Yeah, trash!
No problem. Prove
Unless
it.
proven otherwise.
And prove you're not, right?
Yeah.
How do you do that? That's
you
like witch
be
trials.
An ally. You have to be an ally.
Oh, no, they asked us to problematize allyship, too. You see, there's power dynamics. Once you say, hey, I'm an ally, now you've made it so that you have like a shield where people can't call you a white supremacist anymore. Mm-hmm. And you are acting on behalf of other people in you're speaking for them, so you now have assumed power, you're reproducing the same power dynamics.
Right. That was the Mein Kampf paper.
Yeah, our paper that rewrote Mein Kampf actually was about allyship, and they were like, you didn't problematize allyship.
Yeah, we had two of them that did Mein Kampf. One of them we just more or less replaced whites, would replace Jews with white men. And you
literally took Mein Kampf, the actual words from Mein Kampf,
Yeah.
and put it in this paper and replaced the word Jews with the word white men, and they accepted it.
Well, we had two papers that did Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
We had two versions.
So that one did not get accepted.
That one did not.
What were the quotes that you guys used?
I mean, so with that one, what we did was we took the whole document online and we just searched the word Jew. And we just started picking sentences and paragraphs. So what was it? That at the end it was something like, if we don't combat whiteness, it's going to be the funeral wreath for mankind. That's straight out of Mein Kampf. Now they didn't they didn't accept that paper though, because that paper turns out was written from the perspective of a white lesbian who hated her own whiteness, and they said that it was positioning her as a good white, and because she's making herself out as a good white, again, allyship isn't as all it's cracked up to be. She, was making a problem. She should have really been forwarding the ideas of the black scholars that she read way more and not talking about herself so much, even though it was a paper designed to be talking about herself.
Yeah, because that was what Hitler did, so that's what we had to do.
Yeah.
Kind of calling out the woke and kind of calling out the anatomy of what is, the woke left. The problem is that these people who voted for Trump, they did not change. They did not change. Their politics did not change. What we ended up doing was moderating the Republican Party broadly. James Lindsay, Douglas Murray, all those types of, neocons or perhaps even classical liberals, they are just that. They are neoconservatives and they are kind of classically liberal. And that's fine, I suppose. We're not going to throw you in prison because of it.
I condemn anti-Semitism on the right and on the left. I'm an equal opportunity condemner of anti-Semitism.
You're alluding to Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, none of them are any good on the right. On the left, I don't like any of these anti-Semites, and I'm not shy about it. There's no reason to think we're ever going to convince them, but we can deport them, we can put them in jail, we can make their lives miserable, we can cut off their funding, and that's what the Trump administration is doing for the first time.
The problem is that you can't have a party where you have James Lindsay voting for one guy and then you have someone like Andrew Wilson voting for the same guy, or Nick Fuentes did not vote for Donald Trump. But you span this political spectrum from center left to Christian conservative hard right, and that problem is what kind of led to this whole debacle in the first place. Because now the Trump administration is at least attempting to enforce the will of the voters, the political will that he got into office with. He's trying to exercise and use. He used it on the border. He's on DEI. He used it in a litany of ways, especially with Doge. But the problem is that with immigration, with the economy, it's starting to kind of rub up with those woke-like personalities like James Lindsay.
So Lucifer is the morning star, and he's the angel of the untrammeled intellect. That's how he's portrayed in Milton, right? And he's allied in some strange way with the serpent in the Garden of Eden.
If I might just interject, if he's the morning star, what do you do in the morning after the morning star rises? You wake up.
Right.
Woke.
Right.
And others. And the first issue, I think, that kind of exploded this entire kind of the bee's nest, so to speak, was the H-1B debate. And if you watch I did a video on this actually, choosing country over economy.
Thinking of people as interchangeable units, while it would be useful in a simulation or in an economic theorem, it strips them of their humanity. And by the way, it's one of the first steps towards any authoritarian dictatorship type system. It's one of the first steps towards Marxism, is thinking of people as just labor. It's a very gross, anti-human thing to think, just to appeal to the Redditor in you.
The entire H-1B visa kind of dispute was on its face a debate about, immigration, about visas, about foreign workers, about how we kind of structure these things. But at the very kind of heart of it, underneath that surface, it really was about what is a nation? What is a country?
We have hardwired group preferences. We have genetic memory. We have culture. This is not learned stuff. It's so deeply embedded in us that it carries on for thousands of years.
Because if you ask someone like James Lindsay, or even perhaps a libertarian, a country doesn't really exist in a way. It's more or less just a group of people in an economic zone. The borders are kind of irrelevant, and the cultures don't really matter. All we should be trying to do is allowing free enterprise and the free market to kind of work and blossom and create the newest iPhone. Whereas I and many others kind of took the position of, well, not really. A country exists and its people should be taken care of by said country through government. Immigration destroys culture, mass immigration especially. And that's very important because culture matters. Nationalism matters. But to the woke light, it doesn't. The actual woke right, it doesn't. And James Lindsay and those types were very critically conscious of this nationalist kind of aura on the actual right, from conservatives, true conservatives. Kind of had this nationalistic reflex in response on the whole H-1B debate, and thus it really kind of sparked this kind of, not an outrage, so to speak, but this kind of response.
You really want to sit here and argue on behalf of the expert class and these issues have been dealt with long ago. But what does that mean? Like when someone like Konstantin will say the reason why Douglas Murray is so frustrated is because we've already batted down all these stupid ideas. But, I think for a lot of us, we go, oh, yeah, but that was back when the evil machine had full control of everything. Maybe we didn't really bat down these ideas. Maybe Pat Buchanan was right about all those things he was saying. I mean, I don't know. Yes, it is true to some degree that Douglas Murray's ideas won the day and people like Pat Buchanan and Ron Paul's ideas lost the day. But what have we gotten for that? And, at a certain point, if we figure out that we've been lied to about everything for the last 20 years, some people might go, well, what were they saying 30 years ago? What were they saying 40 years ago? What were they saying 60 years ago? It's a natural reaction.
Those libertarians like Vivek Ramaswamy and others came out in strong support of foreign, immigration and, importing foreign workers. And other people like Jack Posobiec and so many others came out against it. It was kind of the perfect encapsulation of the tech bros versus the MAGA base, where the MAGA base doesn't want to import cheap Indian workers so that they can lose their jobs, so that they can be kind of replaced by cheaper labor. Whereas the tech bros are all about trying to streamline and make things as efficient as possible and minimizing costs and all that kind of stuff, which, as I kind of hope I kind of captured in my past video on it, I don't really blame them for. I don't blame the tech bros for being like this. And I've tried to be very straightforward with this. I don't blame capitalists for being capitalists. I don't blame capitalists for wanting to pay American workers less. I don't blame them for wanting to skirt taxes. I don't blame them for wanting to make life harder for the competitors. I don't blame them for any of that. But what I do blame is the government for giving in to them, because businesses are like kids. They're going to want what they want. They are going to want what's in the best interest of what they think that they want. But it's important for the government to kind of be the parent and say, you know what? No, Wall Street. We're not going to open the borders so we can flood the country with cheap foreign labor and undercut American workers and thus decimate the Rust Belt. We're not going to do that. So in that case, that kind of started it, the H-1B debate. And then from there, it fostered and fostered. It quickly became a nationalist versus a globalist, kind of a faction, a split in the party.
I don't need to see any more working with the FBI assault team. I don't care. People, this audience does not care. The top 10 FBI people, hey, if they're going to be arrested, go for it. That's fine. But that's not the priorities. The priority, this is a priority. HB1 visas are a priority. Protecting American citizens like we protect the sovereignty of our country and the territorial integrity.
But this, like I said before, is a direct result of the big tent problem. Corralling all those people from the disaffected liberals was going to rear its ugly head eventually.
The right wing, Republicans, conservatives, etc., they are trolls and memers and shit posters, and they have acerbic ideas, and they're also the most forgiving people. They are the most forgiving people. Anytime anybody does anything remotely based, they are absorbed by the right. Anna Kasparian talking about not feeling safe in her neighborhood. That's based, man. Anna Kasparian was red-pilled this whole time. I can't believe it. Damn.
And while we were able to kind of coexist together up until the election, because we all had a common enemy focused on Kamala Harris. But after the election, all that went away. And what we were left with is the debate on the actual policy now. Well, what happens when you build a coalition of people who kind of barely agree on a lot of stuff? And then the focus goes from the 30% that we agree on to the 70% that we disagree on. Well, what you get is a virtually inept Congress that can't get anything done, and a bunch of horses pulling in opposite directions. We get one kind of faction in the mega base that champions against nationalism, against the idea that citizens own a portion of the country and have duties from the government to those people to kind of protect the culture and protect them and look out for their interests. Not just try to maximize GDP and make graph go up. That's not the function of government.
American is whoever Doctor Strange brings through the portal to beat Thanos. The new Spider-Man is an American. It's a lesbian from Sri Lanka who just came here to start up a cupcake business. But she listens to Cold Wave. And she just came here to start up her hair dye business. She's an American. She's here for the American dream. That's not reality. That's math. That's Marxism. That's computer programmer, simulation, bullshit. We all know what an American is. And all these paragraph-long definitions and high-minded ideas, it's just propaganda. We know what an American is. And if you're not here to help the American people, then your usefulness to us is over with.
People, citizens have political wills. And if they vote for something, they deserve to get it. They deserve to be represented by their government. And there's nothing wrong with a country, a citizenry that wants a nationalist government, that wants their values and their culture and their livelihoods and their way of life protected from outsiders, from foreigners. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a reason why people don't let strangers just sleep in their houses, because they value their families more than the people outside. But it's not that they want the people outside to die. It's that we value other things more. And that's okay, because not all cultures are the same. Certain cultures are better than others. But for a lot of people in the neoliberal kind of worldview, that is almost, it's counterintuitive to their worldview, but it's not just counterintuitive, but it's directly opposing to their idea of what a country and a populace and a culture should be. They want to allow power to be given back to the people who nearly destroyed their opponent. They don't like Trump wielding political power. They don't like Trump wielding political authority for the people who voted them in. The MAGA base broadly got Trump in, but he was pushed over the top, past the finish line, by his coalition. And now we're starting to see why maybe the ends sometimes may justify the means, but what you're left with afterwards is a gigantic mess that will actually prevent you from doing much of what you tried to do when you got in the first place. So where do we go from here? How do we kind of deal with this woke right idea? Well, something that I've been kind of anticipating for quite some time, actually, was kind of hoping that there would be an off-ramp somewhere, hopefully, but you just never know at all times. But it's either because there's always going to be a pressure from the left. The woke isn't going anywhere, right? The left isn't going to moderate because they can't, because they will just get slaughtered by the progressives. And no, I mean, the problem with the progressives is that they're not like the centrists, where the centrists will kind of just like lay down and be killed politically. Progressives are more violent. Antifa is the progressives. So these people will get violent and they will do anything to stay in power. And that's why so many people on the left are scared of the progressives. So that's going to kind of keep the left from kind of moderating and kind of building a home for his people. People. What's going to have to happen is there is going to be another civil war on the right between these two people. And what's going to have to happen is that there's going to have to be a new centrist party. There has to be. Because what would kill the right, what would kill the Republican Party, as much as I don't like them because they are inept and they don't really ever do much, there will have to be some kind of a political evolution in terms of the political system to kind of encapsulate these people. Because these people are going to redefine what the right is, which is what they're doing, which is hysterical, actually. It's the classical liberals who said that they were liberals their entire lives, who are now telling the right who they are. James Lindsay is telling conservatives what is conservative.
Well, who's the woke one? James Lindsay is a pro-gay atheist. But the Catholics are woke? But the traditional Catholics who criticize Israel on the basis of, one, the strategic interest of the United States, but also humanitarian considerations, we're woke? You're a pro-gay, pro-feminist, pro-diversity atheist, but we're the woke right. But we, the traditional Christians in favor of marriage, that believe in God, that believe in one man and woman, that believe in borders, that believe in no diversity, but we're woke. Okay.
And they don't see the irony in this. As if they are this apotheosis of political knowledge, of what is good or what is just, or what is true to a political ideology. It's completely ridiculous. But of course, that is just what's going to have to happen. unless the MAGA right, the hard right, the conservatives, actual conservatives, point this out and they deal with that fact, they are either going to let themselves be neutered again, or they are going to actually stand up for themselves and push this group out of the right. And there's nothing wrong with being a classical liberal in a sense. There's nothing wrong with being disaffected by the woke. But it is a problem when you bring people into your house because a hurricane's coming your way, and then you're housing them until the hurricane is gone, and then you're like, maybe these people can stay. And after the hurricane passes, and now it's just about you two getting along, they start just criticizing everything in your house. They criticize your interior design. They criticize the layout. They criticize everything. And then they call you the problem. You're the reason why this house is bad. You're bad, and you're evil, and you are actually as devastating as the hurricane is. You're trying to destroy everything that is good. Do you keep them in your house? The hurricane's gone. Okay. They can find somewhere else to go now. They don't have to be there. And if they, by your good graces, are going to represent them in government, in a political ideology movement, and all they are going to do after the storm has passed is just criticize everything that you do, okay, fine. Go. Leave. Form your own party. Rebuild the left. Good luck. Because the problem is that what Donald Trump is doing is actually more moderate than I would actually like him to be. But I hope is the future. I hope Trump pushes harder on what people call retribution or justice. When you give the people what they deserve, that's not retribution. That's justice. Donald Trump should seek justice against those Democrats who went after him and his people. He shouldn't go after for revenge. He should seek justice. Because that's what justice is. Justice is a moral obligation. But with the woke right, we're not going to let you redefine the right. Because there's only one side who redefines political ideologies, who redefines terms that have been around forever and try to act as if reality doesn't exist. And as if the human instincts for survival aren't actually real and don't want to be dehumanized and have their priorities disregarded and dismissed and called racist and woke. There's only one political faction that does that, and that's the woke. So to those of you who are trying to co-opt the right and make the right liberal and to be warm towards the liberal world order, to be more globalist, I ask you this. Why are you being so woke? Why are you becoming what you fought so hard to become? Why do you feel the need to create new terms and redefine existing ones to fit your ideology? To brand your opponent as a certain thing. Sounds woke. To make hyperboles about your opponent's positions and call them all types of names. That sounds kind of woke to me. To focus on the people who are trying to fight for their own country and prioritize themselves before others? Kind of definition of right wing? Why are you being so woke? Because I think the answer is that maybe you are the woke right. Maybe you are the people who left the woke left, or left the left because of the wokeness, and maybe unintentionally, subconsciously brought it with you because you didn't like the actual part of the right that maybe reminded you of why you're on the left to begin with. Maybe that's the case. But that is for me to hypothesize and for you to ponder about. So in the meantime, just marinate on that. Marinate why you're the side who is now redefining terms, creating entirely new ones, and calling your opponents evil for thinking differently than you. Who are trying to beat into the public conscious this idea of your opponents being this woke right. Don't you kind of see what you're doing? Don't you see how you're becoming the very thing that you despised? You're becoming that. And to conservatives, the actual right wing, I ask you this. Are you going to just let this happen again? Are we going to let liberals invade our space and redefine the very values and principles that we fought so hard for? Donald Trump was the political anchor that the right grabbed onto to preserve the national sovereignty of the citizen. He closed the borders and he championed patriotism. He's a nationalist. And we all kind of view that as a breath of fresh air. So are you just going to let that be casted away and dismissed and called woke? I hope not. Because I'm not going to let that happen. I don't want that to be the future of conservatism. I don't want conservatives to be rendered that way. Powerless, helpless, unable to fight for themselves. Because we got too used to being nice to people and letting them trample all over us. Well, we have another shot to reclaim our territory, to fight for what we believe in, and not give up this time. The only question is, do we realize this? And if we do we have the balls to actually stand up for it? Because I hope that we do. I think that we do. But do we have the will and the fortitude to do so? We'll have to see. But I hope that we do. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. If you'd like to support the channel grow, become a member, subscribe, and ring the bell to be updated with all my uploads. Finally, whether you agree or disagree, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I look forward to engaging with you guys in respectful and thoughtful discussions. With that said, I'll see you guys next video. See ya.